Ladies, gentlemen, and hunters of all ages, right around 2.5 years ago now, we had the initial release of Wild Hearts. This was the newest high-budget competitor in the hunting game genre, with a ton of promise and hype behind it leading up to its release. It came out, people played it, and personally, I had a ton of fun with the game. I know a lot of people who also have quite fond memories of the game, but I also know plenty of people who either couldn't play it when it first came out due to the performance issues and optimization problems the game had dealt with for a very long time, or people who are just worried to even try and get it for that exact reason, because they didn't want to get the game and then realize that it didn't run well enough for them to actually enjoy it. I firmly believe that if the performance problems of Wild Hearts did not exist, it really would have gotten a lot of love from the same people who love games like Monster Hunter. The weapons in the game were creative, they were interesting, they were extremely fun to play. The Kemono, which was the game's name for its big beasties, its monsters, were all really fun designs that were essentially the essence of a season or a part of nature baked into a large creature, and the big unique hook of the game that separated it from other games in the genre and made it stand on its own was the Karakuri, the building system. Through this, you can construct anything from pieces of quality of life for your camp to straight up zip lines that you could choose where they start and where they end anywhere on a map, or things like resource generators up to full-on cannons that are a part of combat that you can fire at the monsters. And one of my favorite things I've ever done with this game was make a build that was purely based around these buildings and using them in combat and just using nothing but those to actually defeat things. All that to say, Wild Hearts is an awesome game. The passion and the ideas that went into this game deserved so much more attention and a lot more love than they got the first time around, but the massive glaring performance issues kept it from achieving that status. Nothing about this was ever confirmed specifically, but what we do know is that EA had some measure of control as the publisher the first time around, potentially pushing out the game before it was ready, and then eventually ending support for the game before the developers seemed to be done with doing so. EA has publishing rights for the game in most places for most consoles, with the exception being on Nintendo consoles, and so now in 2025, with the fresh release of the Nintendo Switch 2, Wild Hearts is actually seeing a re-release as Wild Hearts S for this new system specifically, and for this version, EA is completely uninvolved. For the most part, this is the same game that already exists on the other platforms, with 3 notable exceptions. First, cooperative play in Wild Hearts S on the Switch 2 is now going to be up to 4 players, instead of 3 like the base game was. So you can play with 3 friends all together instead of only playing with 2 other people. Second, all of the post-release content will be a part of the game at launch, meaning that you'll already have the months of extra stuff that was added to the original game after its release. Then the third big difference, well, it's on the Nintendo Switch 2. This means that it's portable, of course, for people who like that kind of thing, but importantly, it also means that this redeveloped version was made for this one singular system in mind. There's no variance, and that is the exact ideal environment to eliminate any performance issues that could happen before they even come up. That said, it's also worth noting that the game does run at a much lower quality than you could achieve on something like a PC before, because they've had to downgrade the visuals to make it run properly on the Switch 2. So the main thing is, it looks worse than it did on the previous versions, but that comes with the compensation of relatively consistent performance. There's just one version of the game that they had to make with one goal of performance to meet, and so that made it quite simple. That said, there is a demo for this game out right now already on the Nintendo Switch 2 that you can download at this moment, so if you already own the system, you can check it out a little bit early and play until you unlock the main hub of the game. Any progress that you make in the demo will carry over to the full game on release as well. In this, you can check out the updated visuals and performance to make the game functional on the Nintendo Switch 2. You can try out the various weapons as well, and if you're someone who never tried the game on its initial release for PC or PlayStation or Xbox, you can check out the actual gameplay and work out if it's something that you might be interested in. Early reports about the performance are stating that the game can run up to 60 frames per second, but it is most consistently sitting around 40 to 45. Some people won't be a fan of that, they won't think that's enough, but if it can keep that consistently throughout the entire game, that will be a lot better than what many people dealt with on the original version of Wild Hearts. Whether this is enough to pique your interest in the game in Wild Hearts S is totally up to you. That's a very personal thing. It's your decision in the end, of course, and I don't want to push you in any direction so much as just say, hey, this is the thing, I liked it, and I think it's worth at least looking at and thinking about, because as someone with thousands upon thousands of hours in games within the hunting genre over the years, my opinion is that Wild Hearts is totally worth your time, especially if the performance is actually consistent for Wild Hearts S. Because yes, the visuals may look a bit worse, but the consistent consistent frame rate is what you need to be able to actually enjoy the gameplay, and the gameplay is what is really at the heart of this project, making it really shine in my opinion. It is entirely worth diving into for anyone who never got to play Wild Hearts originally. That said, the original game does still exist, and it will not be receiving any updates to our knowledge. Wild Hearts S is only going to be a Switch 2 thing. There won't be any crossplay, there won't be any cross saves, so you can't keep your old save from the original game. You do have to start fresh in this version. And with that in mind, both for those who have played before and more importantly for those who have never experienced Wild Hearts in the past, let's go over a few tips and tricks to help you out with coming to terms with existing in this world and with the mechanics of the game. First up, use what the game has to offer. There are tons of mechanics. You can just run in weapon blazing, smacking the Kemono with whatever your weapon of choice is, and sure, you'll do fine at least for a bit, but you might hit a roadblock eventually, because the game offers you a bunch of things to make it way easier if you use them correctly. This includes the Karakuri that I mentioned earlier, which are the building objects, and I highly recommend getting accustomed to that system sooner rather than later, as there will be fights where you are just expected to be able to input the commands to summon a specific Karakuri relatively quickly, because it is a counter to a specific attack from that Kemono. I've always thought that was a lot of fun, and I think it's a really integral part of the Wild Hearts experience. Similarly, there are things like the food system in the game, and the food system can get quite complex by the end of the game, but the main point is just you should always eat food. Pay attention to the food that you have and the food that you eat, look at what it will give you, and manage your food buffs with purpose rather than just ignoring it, because even the small buffs that you can get from food early on are quite hefty compared to your base stats. Another thing worth mentioning is that the regular dodge is fine, but if you want to have a dodge with a lot of iframes, sprint and then dodge. This will do a sliding dodge, which gives you much more distance and gives you much more iframes. So basically, it is just a get out of jail free card. It's what you want to do if you are not completely certain about the timing of an incoming attack. Also, I want to be clear that you should try any weapon that interests you in the game without hesitation. Being a whole new fresh face in the hunting genre, if you hadn't played Wild Hearts before, you will be unfamiliar with its very unique weapon options. These extend from a, extendable hammer, which is one of my own favorites, the Maul, to a giant cannon that you can carry around in your arms, a weapon called the Claw Blade that basically just makes you fly around like the scouts from Attack on Titan, and a bladed umbrella that functions as a parrying weapon. The creativity is super high, and I enjoyed playing literally every one of the weapons back when I played this game for the first time. The game also incentivizes this, as you can backtrack any weapon upgrade that you do on the upgrade tree for a full refund on the actual monster materials required. This means if you make a weapon and you don't like it, you can refund most of the actual important bits and make a whole different thing instead. That will also come in handy later game, as the weapons have a whole skill system attached to them too. And one of my favorite things about it is that the weapon crafting is sort of like a mini spreadsheet, honestly. As you progress through the upgrade tree, each weapon will have different skills. Some of these skills, called inherited skills, will then be able to continue on with you further through the upgrade tree as you upgrade the weapon. So not only does the weapon that you choose matter, but the specific upgrade path that you use to get to it is super duper important. And so of course the ability to dismantle and get a hefty refund is really good to know about and to take full advantage of. That said, for our final little tip here, if you just want to be recommended a set of early gear for the game to aim for to make your journey easier, for weapons, for whatever your chosen type is, you want to aim for lots of raw attack. Weapons do have elements, and these elements can be extremely valuable later in the game, but in the early stages of your adventure, you don't want to be actively managing crafting every different element. You only want to make one weapon and make it as powerful as it can be, so focusing on raw attack is ideal to begin with. The best one of these types of weapons that you can craft for each weapon type early before the sort of high rank split of Wild Hearts, which is when you enter chapter 3 of the game, is from a Kemono called Ice Tusk. As for armor, my early game recommendations are the Roaming Bard helmet for 15% recovery boost. This does what it says on the tin, improving any sources of health regeneration by 15%, and this is made from Spine Glider and Dreadclaw materials. The chest piece is the Young Samurai armor, made from a mix of materials from Ragetail and Sapscourge, and this has the health boost +3 skill. This increases your maximum health and will help stop you from getting beat up quite as badly as a result. The arms are Roaming Bard again, so Spine Glider and Dreadclaw materials, and these have the Savage skill, which is just a straight up attack increase skill, plain and simple. For your legs, for weapons that care about stamina, and you'll know whether that's you or not before you even unlock these, I recommend the Grit Dog pants. These have 10% core boost, which is simply 10% increased maximum stamina. For non-stamina gobbling weapons, there's the Long Reed pants, which are made from lava back materials and and coral fragments, and these have 16% nimble fingered as a skill, which makes you actually drink your healing water 16% faster. It speeds up the animation to make it just easier to do. Then finally, for your boots, one more roaming bard armor piece made from Dreadclaw and Spine Glider materials, and this one has another 15% recovery boost as the skill on it. So with all of this combined, you have increased maximum health, 2 instances of increased healing, increased attack damage, and then either increased healing consumption speed or increased maximum stamina based on the choice that you make there. All in all, this game can be a little bit daunting at first with how deep and dense some of the systems are, but it's a ton of fun if you give it a chance, and once these systems click, you will probably get addicted to it just like I have. I hope that any of you who are in a position to try this game out and give it a chance will at least give the demo a go and see if you like the combat, because I honestly really want an eventual Wild Hearts sequel. I think the foundation of this game was really fun, and if they built on it and improved in the future, it could become a very good part of this genre. And at this point, it feels like the only way that we get another Wild Hearts is if the Switch 2 version is suddenly really successful. That to say, I also wanted to be clear about the issues with the game and be very upfront about performance expectations for the Switch 2 version. So I wish you all the best in the game if you choose to play it, or hey, if you've already played the original version of the game, it could always be time to just dive back into what you've already got and give it another go, especially if you originally stopped playing before all of the post-release Kemono were added in, because there were some pretty cool things added near the end. That just about does it for today then, everyone. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I wish you the best of luck if you're going to be diving into Wild Hearts S. Like if you liked the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.